Alright, so my truck's been overheating for a little while. You can see the temperature gauge there. That shouldn't be going over 210. Over 210 is bad. So usually this truck runs very cool. So I know there's a problem with the cooling system. So to get the temperature down, what you can do is you can turn the heat up all the way and then feel it, you know, and if it's pulling hot air or, you know, out of those vents, then you know it's pulling hot air away from that motor. And usually that will get that gauge down. But as soon as you don't feel hot air coming out of those vents, you know the truck's not cooling itself. Putting that heat on got the temperature down quite a bit there, but it's still running too hot. Alright, so let's see if we can figure out what's going on here. So, we got antifreeze in there. That's actually really cool. Alright, so as the truck's sitting at idle, you can see it's getting pretty hot. Alright, so I'm looking, I don't see any leaks from any of the hoses. And this still has antifreeze in it. So I bet the water pump is leaking. And yep, alright, you can see it down in there. So usually, you know, when all the hoses are dry and you got antifreeze leaking from the front of the engine, that's usually the water pump. Let's look on the ground. But yeah, it's leaking water. So you can see it leaking right off the front of the engine right there. And I know it's, if you're overheating somewhere, it's really tempting to open this and add more coolant, but let me show you what happens when you open that hot. The trick is you got to get away from it quick, so you can unscrew it. And it's unscrewed right now, but I'm holding it down. As soon as I let off of that, it's going to explode. Watch. So you don't want to touch that. That's hot. That wasn't that bad. There's not that much coolant in this thing. Alright, let's see. Let's get this truck fixed. Alright, here I'm driving it now, and that's a pretty good example of it overheating. So that got it down. This truck to my house to fix it, and I'm not going to drive it until it's fixed. And this radio I installed a couple videos ago, that's pretty sweet. I still like it. I'm not having good luck. There's my wheel right there. That sucks. The first step is to drain the antifreeze. That's more, this is just water. All right, we're under the back of the truck now. Alright, I always kind of learned if bolts are hard to get to, at least make them easy to do. These were stiff going in that new part. They're metric, so I don't have any new ones here. But running a die over these will make them good as new. So the way to tell what bolts you have, so here's all my metric taps. And all you pretty much do, you can match up the end to get the diameter right. It's pretty easy to see that's an M8. And then you hold it next to the threads. And it will sync up exactly, and it's very obvious, like a wrong one, you know, here's a 1.75, I mean that's way wrong, but you can just see that they don't go in. Alright, so we know we need an M8 by 1.25 tap, so that's right there. Alright, so these taps, they can only be, you only start them from that side. Alright, now these bolts will work like new. Alright, so this tube, these always rust out too. This is just a piece of conduit. But it works perfect. Alright, now let's get back to that radiator. The way you get these plastic tanks off is there's like a nub in the middle. You just pry that out, and then they can lift up. Alright, you gotta unbolt the fan before you take this out. Unless you want to cut out this area right here, then that'd probably be a lot easier, but... Alright, now this clutch fan needs to come off the old water pump. Alright, now this is when you can usually tell the water pump's bad. It'll have play in it. Now it's not that much, but you can hear it. So this truck could have had a few different engines in it, and this was the smallest one. The thing I like about having the smallest engine in a truck is there's usually a lot of room to work on them, especially in this case. Sometimes a water pump will be 1 inch away from a radiator and you got to take 10 other things apart to get it out. This is probably one of the easiest water pumps to do. I actually put a water pump in this truck a few years ago, and I think when I did it I put grease or anti-seize on all these bolts. It's nice, they're all coming out very easy. Alright, here's the two water pumps. They look the same. See, this one's got the factory Chrysler symbol on it. And this one was a brand new aftermarket. So one thing, this, I guess that's got to come out of here and go on to that one. Alright, let's try to get that out of there. And I think when I put it in this one, I put gasket maker on it to seal it in there. Now this is muriatic acid. Someone says it will dissolve rust. Alright, well that stuff worked pretty well. And check out what happens when you drip this on concrete. I've never even tried this stuff before. All right, now whenever you're doing this, it's a good idea to change these hoses. This is a new hose here. So I'm going to try putting this together in a different order. Alright, this should slide right in here without the fan bolted on. Alright, this thing here is called the clutch fan, and it even said in these instructions to change this. I'm not going to bother because I installed this one maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but what happens is, like if this gets any play in it, see this is completely tight, I can't move this fan at all. The way that works, the hotter the air is coming off the radiator, it makes the fan spin faster, so that way when the engine's cool, you're not wasting gas running this fan all the time and making extra noise. But when there's hotter air coming off the radiator, it makes the fan run faster. The problem is they go bad and then the fan doesn't run fast enough and it won't pull the air through the radiator, and everything could be perfect on your cooling system, but that will be bad and it will make it overheat. One time I even added a snowplow to a Jeep, and wintertime, 10 degrees out Fahrenheit, and the thing was overheating just driving down the road. Couldn't figure it out. I changed everything on the cooling system, radiator, pumps, hoses, whole new cooling system, still overheating. Finally figured it out. It was the clutch fan was bad. As soon as I put that on, it fixed it. Alright, so I'll show you how you test antifreeze to make sure it's 50-50. So that you use this tool here. I'll put a link in the description for this. These are pretty cheap. So here, I'll start with regular water. So you squeeze that. Fill that up to this line right here. And then you can see this dial down here says the freeze point. So you see it's facing pretty much straight down, so it would freeze at, well, it's pretty much off the chart. So now I'll try the straight antifreeze. And you can see it's to -45. So ideally they want this to be -34. 50% water, 50% solution. So that's pretty much off the chart again at -45. So I'll just try doing it like this. So I'll fill up half water. Let's see what happens here. And half antifreeze. Oh, I didn't get enough. Look at that. So we're right in there, right where it should be. Alright, so let me get this truck filled up. So I'm just going to start with straight antifreeze here because the engine may still have some water in it. Alright, this is 50-50. What you want to do to top these off is slowly add antifreeze as it's running. Alright, that looks good. I don't see any puddles underneath it or anything leaking. So I'm confident this is fixed. This is a Ford rim. Just seeing if it works or not. Well, that looks good on there. I guess this could be my spare. Alright, here's the thing for lowering the spare tire down. From the factory, it was some weird shaped thing that rusted out. I just used that piece of conduit and welded a nut to it. And the nut is the same size as the lug nuts. So when you're changing your tire, you know you're gonna have this tool. You're not looking for it. Alright, so the tires that were on my pickup truck are actually pretty new tires. I just bought these, but the other day I had one of them right here. I had the sidewall blow out driving off-road, and this is the second one of these I've had go bad like that. So I've been driving off-road a lot lately, so I figured I'd put a set of mud tires on the truck. So I just got these. You know, these are pretty cheap. You know, they have a lot more tread, and the other advantage is the sidewalls seem a lot thicker, so these should be a lot less likely to puncture while driving off-road. So I just picked up another set of these factory Dodge wheels. I got it for 50 bucks. So I'm going to mount these 4 tires on the 4 rims I have with the worst tires on them. This inside of this tire got all muddy. That needs to be clean. So for years, I never had a good tire machine, and I would never pay anyone to change my tires. I'd always just refuse to do that. So I would always borrow them on, and I could generally do it. One time I even made this tire machine. I still have it. It's just like a big flat thing with a post sticking up, and you could use pry bars and pry tires on and off. But then I got a Coates 1010, which was all right, but it always had issues with weird rims, and I felt like 80% of the time I had a weird rim on the thing, so it wasn't that useful. It probably would have worked well on this rim, but it was like a center thing, and then you'd screw it down, but you know, the thing just didn't work well. Then I got this from my friend who has an auto mechanic shop, and this was a great machine, but he was doing a lot of high-end cars, and he needed the latest and greatest in tire machines, I guess, so I bought this off of him. But you know, this is the only way to go with tire machines. The way it clamps on and off, like, see how that works? small ATV rim, I have these which go on. How do these go on? Which go on like that. So if you're doing like a lawn tractor or ATV or something little, this machine will still work. But a tire machine like this is the only way to go. It's definitely worth having a machine like. And there's some on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description because I've been tempted to get a balancer because I don't have one. But they're so cheap. Like it's like 800 bucks free shipping for a brand new machine. So I'll put that link on there, and if anyone has an opinion on that machine, let me know in the comments, because especially with the balancer, because I'm still thinking about buying that. I'm gonna get this old wheel weight off of here. See how easy that is? This is a nice tire machine. You know, some people recommend like anti-seize, but I think grease is the best thing for bolts to keep them, you know, so they don't rust on there. And you can actually get them off in a year or two. You think it looks better with or without these? I guess with. none of these will come off. And this socket's about ready to explode, so make sure I have safety glasses on. And sometimes you get more power with a shorter socket. Let's see if this does it. Oh wow. These self-tapping screws are great for screwing plastic pieces onto cars. Look at that, that's good as new. When I bought this truck, the cab was gray, it had one white door, the tailgate was maroon, and the bed was white. And I got a gallon of this paint and just brushed it and made it all the same color. You know, there's a few times where I folded this tailgate in half and I thought it was completely ruined. But every time, like one time I even took it off and split it, and then took a block of wood and a sledgehammer and just pounded it all back together. And I put the new locks in it, and it's good as new. You know, but look how nice this tailgate works. Look at that. That's a nice tailgate. You know, whenever I make something, sometimes I'll try to weld the date in it. So this here, it just looks like lines, but it's 11/11, so I made that November 2011. Alright, the truck's been run and all the antifreeze is mixed up in here, so let's see what mixture I ended up with. Alright, and we are at negative, looks like negative 35. Alright, that's That's perfect. That's exactly what it should be. And it's a good idea to go around and just check all your machines too with these, like especially before winter time, to make sure, you know, the antifreeze didn't end up with too much water in it somehow. And I'll put a link in the description for this lift. These are actually really cheap, these auto lifts. I mean, especially considering what people will often pay for a pickup truck. I mean, a lift like this is like in the $2,500 range. You know, just spend $2,500 less on the truck and get a lift also, because it's like you'll have it forever and it will pay for itself in 1 or 2 repairs. Alright, the water pump and new tires are finished, so this truck's ready to be used. People may question the size of these tires. I know they look a little small on here. This truck does have a lot of fender room and can fit much bigger tires. This is the size tire that's supposed to be on this truck, 245, 75, 16. Now, I know even skipping up a bunch of sizes, even putting 305 on here fits fine and nothing rubs. The reason I have this size tire on the truck is because most of the time I'm towing with it, and usually heavy stuff, like, you know, up to 5 tons plus sometimes. And having that size tire makes the truck accelerate and brake so much stronger. I even usually put 285s on this in the winter. That's going up like 2 sizes, and it's fine. Driving around with no trailer or plowing is completely fine, but as soon as you have a heavy trailer on there, you notice it big time. When you step on the brakes, they just feel a lot weaker. When you go to accelerate, it's just weaker. So that's why I keep this size tire on it. And a few other people may question, you know, why I keep repairing a truck that's rough. Getting it, you know, a lot of people would have bought a new truck probably years ago, condition-wise. This truck has been really reliable, so that's usually when I'll replace something, when it's breaking all the time, or especially if something has 2 major repairs in a row. But this truck, I've paid almost nothing for this thing, and I've been driving it since 2011, so it's been a really good truck. There's an old video on my channel of rebuilding the transmission in this thing that no one ever watched. It's not as complete with the narration and everything like the new videos, but you know, it's still, that is the transmission out of this truck. So, all right, so let's go test this thing out. And this broke when I was pulling this piece off, so I just got a new one. Alright, so a good test for the truck. Let's tow the skid steer up a mountain. Good boy, Levi. great. The truck is running nice and cool after climbing that long hill. Alright, well, I'm definitely going to call this a success. So I could keep filming more stuff about the truck, but it'll be in plenty of other videos.